We get some weird calls in ambulance control. Part 6. Urgent update. I'm freaking out. The test calls are real. Jesus Christ, Naomi. I was so happy this morning, happier than I've been in a long time, especially considering it was 6:30 in the morning and I'd just arrived at work for a 12-hour day shift. The stomach bug finally passed. I was ready to get back to work, ready to meet my newbie and get started with mentoring. I checked the rota, and Naomi wasn't due to be in, so I wouldn't have to deal with that awkwardness either. I walked into the training room, full of the joys of spring, to be greeted by what felt like a funeral. As soon as James told me that Naomi had disappeared, my heart fell into my boots. My brain was screaming, of course she disappeared. Like I should have figured out this was likely to happen. But I was just stunned. I thought she was stressed about the test calls and wanted to convince herself it was a prank. I didn't, not in a million years, think she'd actually answer a call. I wanted to believe it was a prank. I wanted to think it was just James and the older call handlers and the dispatchers messing around with us newbies, seeing how long they could keep the joke going. But every single face in the room tells me it's true. There are call handlers who've been here longer than James, and they looked crushed. This wasn't a joke. This was someone's life. Naomi had a husband and 3 kids. She had a little picture of them tucked between her ID badge and her access card. She showed it to me not long after she started. 3 little cherubic blonde babies. None of them are older than 10. That's their mom that's gone missing. I took James aside a bit later, after everyone had dispersed, and asked him about the families. I wasn't trying to catch him out anymore. I'm a card-carrying believer in the dangers of these test calls after today, believe me. But I needed to know what those kids are going to be told. How do they explain it to Naomi's husband? Did she tell him about the test calls? James didn't know all of the details, but he told me what he knew. The police told Naomi's husband that she'd purchased a train ticket to Eastbourne, and a body had been found at the foot of the cliffs of Beachy Head. They were fairly certain it was Naomi's body, but they'd have to wait a while to formally identify her because her body was damaged beyond recognition by the fall in the seawater. Apparently that's what they tell all of the families. They couldn't handle the stress of the job. They kept it all hidden from their families and friends, and one day they just snapped. They boarded a bus, a train, or a plane, traveled to a suicide spot and killed themselves in a way that rendered the body unrecognizable. I asked if they were going to investigate Naomi's disappearance. His look was answer enough. What can they do to investigate? There's a blank spot in the call recordings, a spot where Naomi's line was engaged for a few seconds but no telephone number, no call reference generated, nothing. No evidence left behind, and no trace of Naomi. The blank spot in the recording data is from midnight, on the shift when she was acting weird. We didn't have our break until 2 in the morning. By that point, she had already answered the call. I never heard anything out of the ordinary, but we don't tend to listen to other people's calls. We've got our own calls to be getting on with. Still, I feel so bad. I should have been more vigilant. I should have done something. I hate feeling so helpless. When she was asking me if I thought it was a prank, she was looking for reassurance. Instead, I probably made her fears 10 times worse. I wish I'd lied. Will did. I got about halfway through the shift today and realized I couldn't focus. I felt like shit, and the guilt was weighing so heavily on my shoulders. I poured it all out to Anna. How Naomi started talking about the test calls and I brushed her off, and then had to go home. She told me not to worry. I had no way of knowing that she had taken a call. Apparently, after I went home, Naomi went to Will and told him what she'd done. He's had call handlers tell him the same thing before, so he knew what to do. He told her it was all just a joke, that she figured it out, that she had to keep it a secret from the rest of us because they wanted to keep the joke going for as long as possible. I see why he did it. What good would telling her the truth have done? She would have panicked. Instead, she laughed along with Will, congratulated him on a good joke, and continued taking calls until the end of her shift. Will waved goodbye and started filling out the paperwork. I asked why he didn't do something, why he didn't arrange for someone to be with her at all times. They've tried it before. The person goes to the toilet or falls asleep or even blinks and the call handler is gone. and that just makes the person tasked with watching them feel like crap. There's no cure or rescue. You just have to try and prevent it. Shit. Part of me wants to hand in my notice now and leave. It's the sensible thing to do, isn't it? I don't know. I just can't seem to convince myself. Most of the time, this job is great. Was great. I helped deliver another baby 2 weeks ago, a little boy. He wasn't breathing when he was born, so I helped his dad to give CPR and I listened to him take his first breath. Nothing compares to the sound of crying after such a hideous silence. That's a rush. That's a thrill I'll never get in any other job. Can I really give that up? I'm sensible. I'm not like Naomi. I won't answer the call. Any doubt in my mind that it's all real is gone. It's real. A woman is missing, and no one is looking for her, so she's probably dead. And it's no joke. It's like James said, if we all leave, who's going to tell the newbies not to answer? Jesus, Naomi, why the fuck would you answer? After everything we've been told, even if you thought it was a joke, why take that risk? Those 3 poor kids are left without a mom, and her husband doesn't even know what really happened to his wife. She deserved better than this. They've delayed the start of mentoring. They've said we need a few days to get our heads straight and come to terms with what happened. We're not talking to the new call handlers about the test calls until they have one, or they're more likely to panic and make a mistake when one comes through. We hit mute, we keep them quiet, then we explain. Quick, simple, effective. We tell them it isn't a joke. No matter what they've heard, it isn't a joke. We tell them about Naomi. We hammer it home that it has happened recently, and it can happen again. They aren't invested in the job like we are. They don't know the thrill of bringing a newborn baby into the world and finding out your CPR helped save someone's life. They don't have that desperate craving for the thrill of the next great call, or the rush of adrenaline when you're someone's lifeline on the other end of a phone. If I were them, I'd run for the hills the second I found out. I'm sorry for the rushed update, but I think I'm in shock. A few days ago, I was sitting in the kitchen with Naomi. Now she's vanished without a trace, and her family thinks she killed herself, all because of a call she took. What if I make a mistake? What if I screw up? And then it's Jack and my parents getting the police at my door to say I've thrown myself off a bridge or a cliff. I wish it was like a movie, where I could suddenly pick myself up and investigate and bring her back. But it isn't going to work like that. She's gone, and even if I could investigate, where would I start? I don't know what to do anymore. I think I'm in over my head.